With some great jams, more to come a little later on. We've got Cap Mula, maybe Wizkid. Let's stick around to find out who else is lined up right now.
We've been talking to you for the last couple of weeks about an app, a digital smart wallet called Loop, as in L-O-O-P. We've been asking you to download it because this could be a game changer for all you guys who have so many bills and so many debts to pay, and you don't know, sometimes you forget and you want to know, hey man, can this all be directed in one place? Can it all be synchronized just to make my life easier?
Yes, and it's available on the Play Store and App Store. And here in studio to tell us more about it, we've got the man who runs the show himself,
the CEO of Loop, joining us live in the studios, Erick Muriuki. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Good to see you.
My pleasure too.
Asante sana.
Asante.
Don't
Good
be
morning, Nick.
Hi, how are you?
Salama sana.
Don't be too scared of radio. It's very harmless.
I was told I have the perfect face for radio.
That's why we're here. I hope it's not a colleague, because you should send them to HR for harassment.
That's why Nick and I are here.
Great.
So tell us all about Loop.
Loop, yeah, we've been talking about it for a couple of weeks, right? And a lot of people are asking, what is it exactly? When you say digital smart wallet, what is it?
Fantastic. Loop is a brand that has actually been in the market for 5 years. We set out in 2018 as Loop. At the time, we started the service as a digital bank. So with all the craze that has been going around in the last 5 years about neobanks, and we hear only about neobanks in Europe, Loop has actually been a neobank for the last 5 years, up until January of 2023. And as a neobank or a digital bank, essentially we're just digitizing. We had just digitized everything that you can do with a bank. And we had achieved some good success for those first 4 years of our existence. But what we were observing was a shifting trend in how consumers manage their money. And essentially, when you think about innovation, you don't necessarily try to change the customer, but try to understand how the customer is behaving and figure out how do I improve a customer's experience. And why we pivoted from digital banking to say, okay, Loop is a smart wallet. It's very simple. A wallet is the one thing you all carry around. We all carry around our wallets.
Yes.
One of the changes we're noting is, yes, the wallet is important, but you will go back home if you forget your phone, but you'll not go back home if you forget your wallet. However, your wallet is still carrying very important things for you that you would not want to leave behind. You have your ID in your wallet. Most of us do carry our IDs. You have some cash in your wallet. You have your banking instruments, so your cards, your debit card, which connects you to your bank account. You also have your credit limit, your credit card in your wallet. You have photos of your loved ones. And what we have done with Loop is simply just to digitize that. By digitizing that, then it enables us now, if you want to not leave your phone behind, but you might leave your wallet behind, then it's now possible with Loop. With Loop, you have your banking credentials, you have your ID, you have your banking KYC and a credit score with you on your phone. So if we think about a wallet, today when you say wallet, we technically just mean electronic cash. Because wallet today is a term really that has been socialized into financial services through mobile money. But the wallet is essentially a container for your cash. So Loop First has a payment account where you can put your digital cash in, but also it helps you to connect your bank cards or link your bank cards onto Loop. So if you're carrying a physical Visa card with you, and very soon also your MasterCard cards with you, you can actually digitize those cards and link them onto Loop, and you don't have to carry the physical cards with you. Now, with that, then you essentially have a true digital wallet, not only digital cash. You have a true digital wallet with you, and if you need to make payments, whether you're making payments and you want to make these payments from the balance in your bank account, or whether you want to make these payments from a credit limit, so the equivalent of a credit card, we've been able to digitize this for customers. So essentially, Loop is speaking to any bank customer. sorry, Loop is speaking to any bank customer with a view to say, okay, let's bring your phone and your wallet into one exciting user interface. That's really was the change.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Okay, for someone listening to us from far and wide, can they say is this the closest thing to M-Pesa sort of thing? Or?
Yes, I would say if the core of what M-Pesa is to digitize how you make payments, M-Pesa is essentially your digital cash. How Loop differs from M-Pesa is, admittedly, we are specifically speaking to banked customers, and beyond just digital cash, you also link, if you have 3 bank accounts, one at bank A, another at bank B, another at bank C, and each of these banks have given you a debit card or a credit card, and you have some balances in those accounts, you can also link those balances onto your Loop card, or rather those accounts onto your Loop card, which then means you're not just carrying digital cash, but actually you also have linkages to your bank accounts, and you're able to transact directly as if you are, with this user interface, as if you're transacting from your bank account. You also have your credit limits, and actually I say limits because it's 3 types of credit limits on Loop. So you have your overdraft limit, which will operate very much like any other, the other overdraft limit that you know, which is mobile money centric. You also have buy now, pay later. So if you see a nice laptop, a nice phone, you're actually able to swipe or pay digitally with Loop, but elect to only make a 20% deposit, and you choose for yourself whether you want to pay the rest in 1 month, weekly installments, whether you want to make the payment in 3 months or 6 months. You also have a term loan, where you can borrow up to 3 million Kenya shillings and pay that at actually lower than your typical bank interest rates. So you see, we go beyond just digitizing your cash, but actually digitizing your full banking experience.
Let me ask about that, because I know how the overdraft will work. You continuously use the Loop, pay for stuff, and then you grow some credit limit to the point you get to the 100,000. So for the 3 million shillings, would you have to have like a direct source? Like the loans are based on you earn, let's say, X amount, so because of that you can qualify for this. So how does one get that? Because when you say 3 million, a lot of people are like, I think I like Loop now.
Yes. and I have to be careful I don't just peddle credit. But one thing we're doing with Loop and how we've digitized credit is we are going beyond consumption credit. We are able to allocate credit limits to customers that can actually be put into production, into productive investments. So it's not just your 2,000 bob that you would otherwise access from most other digital lenders. So how do I qualify for credit? So for the last 12 years, maybe to speak a bit about our heritage, we were, I think I should be very proud to say this, we're the first in the world to create a credit score using alternative data and be able to give customers credit limit through the M-Shwari service, and went on to do the same also with Fuliza. And essentially we are using the digital footprint of how you're making your payment transactions and essentially how you're interacting with money, and create a credit score that then determines your credit limit. Now, your credit score is not just, as a lot of people have been socialized, say with the CRB, which is either a yes or no, whether you qualify for credit, is actually a continuum of do you qualify for credit and at how much. And at the second level is, yes, you qualify for a credit limit, but if you're to pay back in 6 months, what will the credit limit be? If you're to pay back in 3 months or 3 years, what will the credit limit be? So a customer can actually qualify for example, an overdraft limit of about, say, 10,000 bob, a buy now, pay later, which will go up to 6 months, where you can qualify for, say, 300,000 Kenya shillings. So you can go buy a laptop, you can go buy a TV, you can sort out school fees, or you could also qualify, as I'd said, up to 3 million Kenya shillings, and you say, okay, I'm going to start a restaurant or I'm going to start a business, and that's a really proud development that we have contributed to the financial services industry to introduce the idea of using your information as collateral. Very few of us have what banks typically ask for. Give me a payslip, or give me a title deed, or give me a logbook. So we were the first to introduce information as collateral. So if you're a good steward of your own money, then that is, we're able to codify that and say, okay, actually this is a guy who can be trusted with X amount of Kenya shillings for a credit limit.
All right. And then within Loop, there also sometimes people get like notifications for pay with this, pay with your Loop, let's say at Furniture Palace or Place X, and get all this information, like the deals within the app. Or
Yes. Actually, thanks for guiding the conversation there, because as we're saying, we pivoted from banking, and banking is a one-way channel. It's a consumer and a supplier. The supplier being the bank, the consumer being the customer. And what we did by pivoting from banking to a digital platform is essentially creating the equivalent of a digital mall, so to speak. A mall is a marketplace.
Yeah.
And what happens in a mall? Buyers and sellers meet. Okay. Again, like we did explain about how we digitized the wallet, by creating this digital mall, we're saying, okay, we now are recruiting, and we started this just last week, recruiting merchants onto Loop. So if you sell shoes, you sell clothes, you run a restaurant, or any kind of establishment that is selling can now be a Loop customer, fully integrated to your bank account. You don't need to change your banking arrangement, whether you're a merchant, a seller, or a buyer. So Loop is not, as I'll keep clarifying, Loop is not a banking service, but actually a digital platform. And on the other side of the platform is the buyers. So I want to buy a pair of shoes. This is my budget. Or I want to buy a phone, and this is my budget. I can actually declare that interest, that I want to buy a phone. On the other side of the platform are the sellers. Sellers are looking for buyers. Now, you are trying to imagine in the mall, where you're walking into the mall, and instead of figuring out where do I find the best shop selling X, that information is actually curated and coming to you as a buyer. And how do we do that? So merchants get onto the Loop platform, and they set up deals. So I sell iPhones. iPhone 15 is out. I still have stock of iPhone 14 and 13 that I want to clear out, so that I can sell more of the new stuff, or I can buy more of the new stuff for sale.
Yeah.
I may choose to then put all of these phones on discount. How will you know? Now, the merchant has to advertise, but a Loop customer who is looking for a phone of that kind is informed there is this deal where you can get the iPhone 14 at a 20% discount. And guess what? We will also help you pay. You just need to make a 20% deposit, and you can then clear the balance over X period of time. So coming back to the analogy of the mall, Loop is essentially the feature we specifically call Loop Discover is essentially your digital marketplace where buyers and sellers are meeting. And the primary purpose there is for the sellers to have reach to a curated market, or a market that has been profiled for them. So if you're not looking for this profile of customer, but you're looking for this profile of customer, the same way you do advertising on Google, Facebook, IG, and you set up your target profile, then we are able to target your deal towards that profile of customers. And the buyers also can search for merchants, they can search for products, they can search for deals. And we're able to say, okay, if you're looking for this kind of merchant, these are the merchants on Loop. If you're looking for this kind of product, these are the merchants that are pushing these kind of products. If you're specifically looking for deals, and deals can be anything. It could be a hotel looking to fill up my
weekends.
There's a long weekend coming in a month, and you design a deal for a holiday in Diani, and you've collaborated with Jambo Jet. We push that deal towards our customers, and we help our customers make those payments. So at the core, yes, there's a lot of discussion about the functional, which is your smart wallet, link your bank cards, make payments, access credit. the true benefit of Loop is actually a deals platform where and very intentionally why we use the brand name Loop. Being in the Loop gives you a much better experience and far better access to the deals that are designed for you by the sellers on the platform.
A lot of people who transact digitally are always worried whether their accounts, everything is safe. That's a big worry for a lot of people.
Yes.
How safe is Loop?
Yeah, so unlike most other fintechs, and I say fintechs because we were birthed within a bank, we were birthed within NCBA Bank, and it's a very proud heritage that we have to be associated with a very robust banking group. We've since pivoted to establish Loop as Loop DFS Limited, which is a standalone fintech. But what we have carried with us is our DNA of banking-grade governance. So not just ensuring that we have good technology, but also operating at the same level of security, the same level of governance, and I distinguish the two, security and governance. Security being really the technical arrangements you have made to ensure that your network and your internal computing components are safe. But governance also is very important. How you do things, how you establish checks and balances within the organization at management and at board level. We continue to operate with banking-grade governance. So, and essentially anyone in financial services, the only currency you have to trade is trust. And if trust is broken for a financial services institution, you don't have a business. So it's a foremost priority for us to ensure the safety and security of our customers' monies, and also as an important participant in the financial services industry to just continue contributing to the safety and stability of the industry.
Maybe you can tell us about, because you're really taking the industry by storm, and this is one of its kind. Maybe the future, the initiatives that you have, partnerships, expansions, so that someone who's out there and has just opened an account somewhere else can say, I think it's time now to just get looped.
Yes, so I always go back to our origin, our heritage. So that DNA gets codified in you. We started off on a journey to bring about dignity to financial services. When we gave the first Mshwari loan back in November of 2012, the core idea there was just make credit or requesting for a loan should be something that people do with dignity. You don't want to be told no. Standing in the queue. You don't want people knocking on your door to remind you to pay. And what we've done with Mshwari, that has continued. And we understand there's a very important job to be done with regards to dignifying the experience people have with money. And it's a job to be done not only in Kenya, but actually all across Africa. So we are preparing ourselves to ensure that we build out yet another great financial services innovation from Kenya, but with very clear plans to expand this into Africa. Why we are setting Africa as the market and not Kenya is because when you look at the evolution of how we are interacting with money, you probably are spending just as much locally as you are internationally. And when you say internationally, it's not necessarily from the West, but actually it's your uncle who's a trader buying eggs from Uganda and onions from Tanzania and shipping shoes to Kenya. It's you sending money to a relative across the border. And you look at the data, any country anywhere in the world, at least 50% of your trade is with your neighboring borders. So we also are recognizing that there is a very important job to be done to facilitate the movement of money, the movement of goods, so essentially trade across our borders. We've seen the significant contribution of diaspora remittances into our economy, particularly when the country went through a very difficult period with COVID. But those remittances are not, and this is something that needs to be said more, are not necessarily one way from the West into Africa. there is actually much more that is intra-Africa. There's also a lot of remittances, you sending money to either a student or even a relative into the West. So we are recognizing that we have an important role to play as a Pan-African, over-the-top digital platform built from Kenya for Africa. And it's also consistent with the trend that we're seeing where Africa is now promoting the African Continental Free Trade Area. There is the African payment and processing and settlement system also. And there can't be a country that is better positioned to digitize financial services and become really the de facto platform for financial services across Africa. I was looking at some data some time back and looking at how much the country has earned from coffee or tea. And from where I sit, I'm able to confidently say that we can actually make digital financial services one of Kenya's principal exports, earning us good FX at a time that we really need to bring in dollar inflows, and more importantly, creating high-value jobs within Kenya, servicing the African market.
There are a couple of million Kenyans in the diaspora. Can that also be relevant to them?
Yes, very much so. If I'm a Kenyan living in the US, I download Loop. I link my US bank card to Loop. And that simple action gives me access to every payment gateway in Kenya. I can send money to a bank account. I can send money to a mobile money wallet and experience financial services as if I was in Kenya. I can also save. If I have dollars in the US, at best I'll be saving those dollars at about 1 to 2%. Simply by linking your US bank account to Loop, you can actually save in Kenya and earn 4 to 5% on your US dollars. Now, because you're Kenyan, you know Kenya is not going anywhere. And you actually have the safety and security knowing that your dollars are earning at a better interest rate at your country of birth. So it is relevant in that way from both our payments, but also from an investment perspective to the diaspora customer.
Now, what about the transaction rates? You know, a lot of people worry about transaction rates. When you use Loop, what are the savings? What's a big,
Yes, charges is a very emotive conversation.
I see you even smiled.
Yes. I was hoping to say it's a loose muscle, but anytime we've done anything with charges, there's been quite a bit of reaction in the market. But I have to say, if you observe what we have been doing and even where we stand today, we've really been trying to calibrate and find that sweet spot between value to the customer and cost. The most notable charges are actually your payment fees, how much it costs to send money, or actually how much it costs to send money. I think you will find that we are either at par or better than any significant payment processor in the country. Specifically, if you're a Loop customer, as in you're initiating your transaction from Loop, it is cheaper to send money between a Loop customer and a Loop customer than any other network. It is also cheaper to send money from Loop to another network, and in some cases actually even cheaper than it will be if the two counterparts were on the same other network. So our charges are out in the public. I think I would encourage Kenyans to compare and contrast. But we are not trying to position ourselves to say we are cheaper. I think we certainly are able to say we offer far greater value. And more importantly, we are not setting up the business just to process payments. We essentially, our heritage, our DNA is a digital lender. So a customer that is also choosing to use Loop as a payments platform is essentially also assured of having the best savings and credit experience that they will find anywhere.
Within the app also there's how you can plan your finances.
Yes.
You can talk about that, because I think that's also a value add. I mean,
Yes,
if I've got
yes,
50,000 to play around in the next 2 weeks, what
Yes,
can I
yes,
do with it?
yes. Yeah, so maybe just to explain the construct of Loop, it has three epics: payments, discover, and grow. So what you're referring to in terms of planning is on the grow epic, and grow essentially is to say, okay, how can we use essentially, how do we put forward digital advisors for how you can save, how you can invest, and how you can borrow? And it's actually an area that will be seeing the greatest developments in the coming months with regards to presenting you with savings alternatives. So if I make a payment of 4,200 shillings, each time I transact, round up to the nearest 1,000. Then we debit your account 5,000 shillings and the 800 goes to your savings account. Or you can choose, each time I receive money, move 10% to savings, and any inflow into your account is moved to your savings account. Or you can choose to say, I have a goal of achieving X amount of savings by this date, and we calculate backwards and show you, okay, then we need to be saving at this rate per month or per week or per day, and you choose. So essentially, we are presenting the customer with digitized journeys where we help them set their goals and help them achieve their goals.